You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 195. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Small and Supercharged podcast. We are going to be hanging out with each other for the next however long this takes, but it's a solo with me today and I'm very, very pleased to have you here. Today's subject is 5 questions to ask someone applying to be a brand ambassador, and then there's a little bit of the detective work that you need to do around these as well. But I think whether you are a brand who is looking for a brand ambassador or if you are somebody who would like to be a brand ambassador, these 5 questions are really, really useful. If you're listening, I'd love you to screenshot and share to stories and tag me and let me know what you think. Do you think there's something I've missed? Do you think that some of these questions are more important than the others? I would love to know. So please do screenshot, share to stories and tag me. And of course, this is the kind of stuff that it's really important, and it's things that we see lots in the free Small and Supercharged group and also in the membership group Mastermind, where obviously I do go into things in more detail, but the foundations of the questions work well in all different situations. And it is important because there are lots of influencers out there, there are lots of riders out there, there are lots of people who would love to be brand ambassadors, and there are lots of brands out there. And there's this kind of, not always this sort of alignment. There are some brands that would be brilliant to have brand ambassadors that don't. There are some people that would be brilliant brand ambassadors that maybe don't get that opportunity, but it could be because they don't put themselves forward. But hopefully these questions will help you, if you are somebody who would like to be a brand ambassador, be maybe a bit more confident about what you have available and what you can tap into, and how that can be really, really useful for a brand that you're approaching, you're pitching at. But also from a brand to help you feel more confident in your choices, because that can be a big old obstacle too. So the first question I would be asking a brand ambassador, and we're thinking these are maybe someone that's contacted you by Instagram DM, maybe they've sent you a message on Facebook, maybe they've sent you an email, or maybe you've seen them face to face. Let's go old school. Maybe someone has come up to you on your trade stand at a show and said they would love to be a brand ambassador for you. My first question would be, which products of mine do you use? Why is this important? Because surely you don't have to have a product to be a brand ambassador. Well, you don't have to. But if you're approaching me from cold and you're saying, I love your product, I would like to be a brand ambassador, I would like to pin my brand to your brand, I would want to know why you felt that was a good idea. What products do you have that you love? What things about me and my brand do you think are good? And when I'd ask them what products they used, I'm hoping at this point there's going to be something there. There's going to be some product that they can say, oh, I love your this, I love your that, I've used your Y for years. I would extend that conversation a bit. I'd say, oh, that's really awesome. What do you like about them? What don't you like about them? Have you got any feedback? This isn't to catch them out, although it is probably the point where you would catch someone out if they have been lying to you. But when you work with a brand ambassador, I think we should be looking to make a really good, lasting connection there. It shouldn't just be I'll give you a product, you can post about it and you can move on. So it might be that your brand ambassadors help you test products before they come to market. It might be that you take on their input and their feedback, and that helps to inform your future decisions. So you don't necessarily want someone saying, it's the best thing I've ever had in my whole life. It is completely perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Although that's lovely for the ego, is that useful? Equally, you don't want someone saying, well, to be honest, they're the worst things I've ever bought, because why on earth would you want to be a brand ambassador? But if someone's giving you useful feedback, like they're really, really great, they fit really well, I was a bit confused about how to know they fitted correctly, but I worked it out. That's useful feedback, because you can then go, okay, well, maybe we need to do a video about this. Maybe we need to put a QR code on the header cards that go into the product. Maybe we need to make sure that our instructions are clearer. That's useful feedback. Even if it's that sometimes the product moves in certain conditions, useful feedback. It doesn't necessarily mean you've got to act on that feedback and go, right, recall everything. It just means that they actually have used the product, they've put it through its paces, and they've got useful feedback that you can absorb and think on moving forward. It might influence the way you put your instruction manual together. It could, these little things that can make a huge difference to a brand and the way it appeals to customers. you can get that kind of feedback and that kind of input from your brand ambassadors. So I would be saying to them, amazing, what products do you use? What do you like about them? What feedback have you got that might be useful? You'll also, as well, from the way they answer, get a real feel for if they are genuine or if they're just trying to get free stuff from you. And the perfect thing would be someone saying, oh, I use your X, I use it every day. Actually, here's a picture of me in it yesterday. Or here's a few pictures of me in it. Or this is how it fits my horse or dog or whatever. But so what do you use and what feedback do you have? So that's like a double question, but it starts with the first one. The next one I'd like to know is, where do you get these from? Why is this important? Again, it's not to catch people out, but it's to get a bit of an idea of their geographical area. Can be quite useful unless it's an online retailer, but also looking at what retailers they support, because it might be that your brand ambassador scheme works through retailers. I know quite a few brands do work like that. So they kind of support the brand, so they support the rider, but there's also some kind of collaboration with the brand. There's loads of different ways that people run their programs. So it's useful to know where that person is going for their product. It also means that you might have somebody that you can speak to, particularly if they're going into a physical shop. And you as a brand could reach out to that physical shop and say, we've been approached by this person. They've bought product from you. They say they really love it. Do you have any input? Is this something that we could perhaps collaborate on? Because as a brand, that's really useful. And it's another way of doing it where you don't, as a brand, annoy your retailer, annoy the person that you are selling your products to sell on, because you're not taking money away from them. But it can mean that you can create a better connection and deliver more and deliver something in collaboration with that retailer. So I'd like to know a little bit about how they normally purchase, where they normally purchase from. This doesn't mean you can't send things direct. I don't think it means that anyway, but it's just useful to get that feeling, have a think about where they shop and get that from them too. The next question, and this is where we get the detective work, is which platforms do you use? I'd like to know which platforms anyone that approached me used. And I think the answer is fairly obvious. Why is I'd like to know what they use. I'd like to see their following number. And again, I'm not into, they have to have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. They can have 1,000, but I'd like to see the potential reach of my working with them. But more than that, I want to see how they use the platform. So I'd like to know what platforms they are. And I would then do the research, or I'd ask them, oh, what's your following on each platform? Roughly, what's your favorite platform? Because that might have a bit of might explain the numbers. It might be that they really, really love Instagram, but they're also on Facebook, Pinterest, wherever. But the following and the number of posts is much less on the other platforms, but Instagram's their main focus. So I'd like to look at that. Also, if you ask them their favorite platform, that allows, when you look for the consistency point of view, I think that if there's one platform they're acing, they're posting on consistently, they are engaging, they're ticking all the boxes that we like to have ticked, I would be a lot less picky perhaps on the other platforms if, for example, the consistency wasn't there. Because it can be incredibly difficult to post consistently across all of the platforms in social media land. It really can. It can be a full-time job. And if you're a brand ambassador or an influencer and you also have another job, that's a lot. That is a lot on your plate there. So if it's that they say actually they're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, insert others, and they adore TikTok, and you look and actually they're posting on it every day, they're posting really regularly, they're getting really good comments and feedback, but on Facebook, they're there, they post occasionally, not so strong, I wouldn't necessarily let that worry me, but it's good to see what they enjoy, because also then you can get a good gauge of the answer to question 4. Why do we do numbers? This is when things go wrong. It's accounting, which is what type of content do you enjoy creating? Why does this matter? It matters because if people enjoy what they're doing, you are much more likely to get the best out of them. We don't want to be making people do stuff they don't want to do. And also, I think it's important that when we work with a brand ambassador or an influencer, we we accept their preferred content style, and we appreciate that if that ambassador is going to be essentially promoting our product to that audience, they're probably going to be using their preferred content style. So, and so they should do, because if they love that content style, if they are all about the short form video and their audience are all about the short form video, and that's what they've really put some time into learning how to improve the transitions, where to put it, and we say, yeah, we like still images, is the engagement going to be as effective? Is the content going to do what you need it to do? Because you've tried to mold that person to the way that you want them to be, when the point of working with people beyond your immediate brand and business is to tap into their special skills, their audiences, what makes them different and unique. So I would really be against trying to crush people into what you want. And also see it as an opportunity. If you really love images, just still images, if you really love longer form videos, if you like blogs, if you like blogs, if you like writing, if you like vlogs, whatever you like to do is awesome. If you're working with a brand ambassador that has got a different skill set and prefers creating a different type of content, all the better, because that means you're also accessing those people who like that form of content that you are perhaps not catering to as well as you could be. This might mean that if you work with this influencer, they create some really cool reels or short form content that you could say, well, when you've published it, at some point, would I be able to have it and publish it on my platform as, you know, as my content, obviously tagging you, etc., and say it came from you originally. And I'll also share that when it goes up and look at the kind of feedback and interaction. It's useful. It's useful to have a mix of skill sets that are creating different forms of content. So you're just ticking all the boxes that you possibly can. And the final point here is, what ideas do you have and how could we work together? Because if you are the person behind your brand and you've got all these ideas for your own brand, there might be some ways that are tried and tested that you know brand ambassadors or influencers work really, really well for you. But what would be great is to hear what ideas that person has, because just like we said with the style of content and the form of content, you want to make sure that what that person is creating really taps in to the audience. So I was trying to avoid being too dictatorial with people that I'm working with on a brand ambassador basis, because I want them to come to me with ideas. I want them to say, I did this thing a few months ago and my audience loved it. This was the bones of it. This is how it worked. Could we apply that to what you're doing? Or I've had this idea, I've looked at this new style of content that's going on, and I think I could do a really good job with it with these products from you. What do you think? That makes my little heart sing. I love it when people come to me with ideas. You know, maybe they're doing a styled shoot and they say, we've got this idea of having lots of different brands that I work with together. We're going to have this shoot. Could we loan some product? Awesome. But when someone comes to you and says, well, I'll put your logo on my saddle pad and put your logo on the lorry, to me, that is really not of interest anymore. The thing is that when you are a brand ambassador, yes, it's great to have that representation at events. But if you think about the time you're at an event versus the time you are on social media, talking to people, living your life, it's not the same at all. It is that mere snapshot in time. So think about what you can do around those events, and also it takes the pressure off you, because if you're an event or a competition, you might pop someone's name on your saddle pad, you might have it on the side of the lorry. Awesome. But do you want to have that as your only content making opportunity when you've got all the rest of the time, when you're not under pressure, when you're not, if you're a rider as a brand ambassador, when you need to perform in that time. Of course, if you're a brand ambassador in different ways, then yeah, maybe it could be that when you go to events, it all depends on the terms at which you're working with a brand ambassador. These are usually for people who do compete or have some kind of extra interest in a hobby that people follow along that journey. But I would be looking at ways that you can promote the brand that you're working with, and I would want someone to be pitching to me brands they could work with me beyond just those very, very short segments. If you're a different kind of brand ambassador, or if you're looking for a different kind of brand ambassador and they have a similar thing again. I'd be looking for what they're going to do the rest of the time. It might be that they like to go to specific events to watch, and they might say, oh, we could do like an Instagram takeover of the event. Awesome. But could we also follow along with you the process of you getting ready to go to that show or that event? So I would really like them to be coming to me with ideas, not just the other way around, because if I'm having to generate all the ideas, I might as well just do it to myself, which is not the point. You want the influencer or the brand ambassador to have these thoughts. It doesn't mean you shouldn't, you should be an absolute pain and not give them any idea at all. It should be this communication. We've got this product to promote. How do you think you could do it? Or them having that, feeling confident they can come to you with any idea they've got, and you will listen to them, you'll take them seriously, and you will think about how it can work for you. Now, there are loads of different ways that the brands do work together, and there's this element of control there, and that's something that is quite interesting about how a brand controls the narrative of a brand ambassador or an influencer. That's probably the subject for a whole different podcast. But I would say I've seen some people, some brands, when they work with influencers, they literally give them a script they are meant to copy and paste onto their social. If you're a brand listening to this, I would heavily advise against that. I think when we pick these brand ambassadors to work with and these influencers, we want to make sure we are using their voice and we're allowing them to get to their audience in the best way for their audience. Don't do that. I think I would actually say no to someone on that basis. If a brand was trying to push me that hard, I'd be really unhappy with that. If they've got a concept they want you to do, fair enough. If they want to give you the facts and figures about a campaign, brilliant. That's going to save you a lot of time. But quite literally copying and pasting, I am not into that at all. And I don't think it's right. I think it's not authentic. I think it's not good for the influencer. I don't think it's great for the brand. So we want to see what they're going to do and the ideas they've come up with, but we need to make sure we are supportive of these ideas and we're not dictating exactly what we want to the dot, to the cross T, however we do it. So 5 questions to ask someone applying to be a brand ambassador. Which products do you use? What's your feedback? Where do you get these? Which platforms do you use? And then you get your Poirot outfit on and do your detective work. What type of content do you enjoy creating? And what ideas do you have around how we could work together? I hope that's been useful. I hope that's given you some food for thought, whether you're a brand or whether you're an influencer and you're looking to apply to be someone's brand ambassador. I hope they've been useful for you. I'd love to know how you get on. I'd love to know if any of these questions have kind of got the cogs turning in your head for what you might do when you approach people and when you work with them, or vice versa. If you're a brand, how you're going to use these questions to help you. If you want more information about how to work with influencers and brand ambassadors and how to develop and grow these relationships, then Mastermind could well be the place for you. This is a membership group that is running lots of different ways. We've got an exclusive podcast now as well, which is only available to members of Mastermind. But it's also a Facebook group. We have marketing masterclasses, mindset masterclasses, weekly lives, opportunities, social media training, and heaps more. If you'd like to know more about that, please just hop over to riafreemanpr.co.uk and Mastermind is along the top. Have a great week and we will catch up soon.